Hello everybody, my name is Adam Ken and I am your IELTS expert. I have countless years experience. So let's just get into the questions and answer for our examiner test volume 1. This is the reading and it's the part 1 and we're going to start with questions 1 to 13. But first we're going to look at questions 1 to 5 where we need to be labeling this diagram. Now this question, more than most questions, you can feel that this is a vocabulary test. I will mention this many times in this video and future videos that the listening and reading tests are really kind of vocabulary tests. For example, if you know what the word habitat is, you can get a good sense of what the picture is, especially core. I'm not going to tell you now, but if you know what core means, maybe you've heard it with core strength, then you can really get a good idea of what this word means. Flood, in question B, again, if you know what the word flood is, well, you have a great advantage of being able to catch the answer in the text. Natural boundaries, boundaries, again, if you know what that means, again, that's a great hint. Vegetation, little hint similar to vegetables. Again, if you know what that prefix is, this is a great advantage. Roadside, I guess that's a little bit more obvious than the other words. And stepping stone, okay? What does this mean? This one might be the least obvious, but you do know those words, stepping stones. But again, it might be the least obvious, but again, kind of using deduction, you kind of guess what the meaning is. Now, even if you think you know what the meaning is, remember, you need to read the text and label it 1 to 5. So the answers, the definitions, if you were, will be in the text. So you do have to make sure, even if you think you know right now, for any IELTS test, you have to make sure that you actually find the answer in the text. Because it's not what you think the answer is, it's what the answer is. So that's a pretty important tip there. Okay, well, let's get started right away. They give you advice at the beginning about you should spend 20 minutes on questions 1 to 13. For the first, labeling the diagram, there's no, you don't have to do them in the order for labeling a diagram. For other questions, when it's multiple choice or when you're, filling in the blanks with up to 3 words, those will be in order. But when you're labeling a diagram, the answers can be anywhere. So for the answers for this one, I'm not going to list them in the order of 1, 2, 3. I'm going to list them in the order that they appear in the text. There's no answers here. So for the first 2 paragraphs, you just keep reading. And then we find question 2, is where A matches up. Okay, so we can find A matches with question 2. This is the core habitat. Here it is, core habitat, undeveloped land that is already protected, okay, and one part of a forest. Those 2 lines really help emphasize and should be able to make it easy for you to match with the picture. The next one is stepping stone. Like I said with the questions, this one might be the least obvious. So let's have a look at what the answers are or where we can find it. And it's right below. Stepping stone between 2 larger protected areas. The animals can then move freely without entering heavily populated areas. So when they said it's kind of the core, right? That means it's quite, something big. But for stepping stones, they're between 2 larger protected areas. Okay? So you got 2 areas and you would feel like there's something in the middle. Okay? The next one that comes up is C, and C matches with 1. This is natural boundaries. Okay? And this is where we can find the answer for that. Natural boundaries such as rocky or hilly areas. So again, the picture is not the clearest, but we can feel that, those would be the rocky, and those would be the hilly areas. So that's the one that matches with, 1 matches with C, natural boundaries. Okay, next we have revegetation. Okay, and we can see here, farmers who live on the fringes of natural parks, so on the fringes means like, just outside, can be encouraged to grow native plants on their land as a process of revegetation. Okay, basically, we know that it's forest, and it's is kind of growing again, so that's where we would get the definition for that. And next we have floodplains, and if you already knew what a flood was, well, this makes it much easier. Flood is related to water, so it must be something next to the river. So we got floodplains around the rivers can cause great damage to property if people build on them. Okay, but by leaving this terrain and allowing rivers to flood it periodically. So there we go. We've got flood, we've got rivers, we've got the area kind of circling around the river. So that one seems pretty obvious, to find the answer there. And for this slide, we've already done the 5, matching, so there's no answers here. Now let's have a look at questions 6 to 13. But before we do that, we need to be clear what true, false, and not given means, okay? They do give the answers here, but again, just to rephrase it a little bit, true means you can find the information in the text and the statement agrees, okay? It's kind of like what they give you on the test, but I just want to go into a little bit more details. For false, well, the text and statement have different information, right? So the text shows the information is incorrect because it has a mistake, or the text shows you what it should be, okay? So that's the key thing for false. So true is quite, obvious. False, you have to be clear. Not given is a little bit trickier, right? Not given is you cannot find the information, or not enough information is given in the text. That's the key there. Not enough information is given in the text. It could be the case where, they ask you to find 2 things, but you can find only 1 thing, okay? Or, they give you a word that's similar, but it's not exactly clear. So this is where they usually trick people on a reading test is, you'll think you found it, but you really didn't find all of it. So that's the key there for not given. Now, when looking at these questions, focus on the adjectives, adverbs, and quantifiers. When I do this, I don't go ahead and read the text first. I want I want my answers, to show you, like I've been teaching IELTS for a long time, I'm not always correct. But when you have a guess and you underline the key words, in the questions, this really helps you a lot. Now, adjectives and adverbs and even quantifiers, these are a little bit subjective. And these are the easiest way for IELTS test makers to make synonyms, okay? So like an adjective, there's many ways to say good. There's many ways to say really for adverbs, right? So there's other ways to say a lot for quantifiers. So this is where they really love to use synonyms or different words, to kind of see if you understand what you're reading. Now for question 6, I feel like computer monitoring of animals, this is where you need to focus in, okay? Once you find something that's related to computer monitoring, then you should, see if this statement is true, not true, or false, or true, false, or not given. In question 7, you might want to focus in on one factor. Extreme dry weather is one factor encouraging migration. It also might be the word migration. It might be a synonym for that. Or it could be, not a factor. So that's why I underlined factor. But also be aware of migration. There might be a synonym in the reading. For question 8, the core habitat is made up of stepping stones. Made up of, I would think of a synonym for this. And again, the idea of core habitat, habitat seems like the key word here. For question 9, again, you're comparing, individual elephants, okay, are moving over a wider area than groups of elephants. So you're trying to find information about individual and groups of elephants and see if it's, if it's true, not, false or not given. Higher ground is useless. Here's that adjective that I mentioned before. You're looking for evidence, that it is useless, maybe a synonym for useless, maybe not necessary, or a completely different word or phrase altogether. For 11, can partly be created, okay? It could be fully created, so that would be false, right? So again, you're trying to find something similar to this, or maybe something different, or of course not given. Elephants are attracted to fields of fruit around the natural parks, so you would need to find a specific sentence that focuses on fruit. For example, if they say apples, well, that's a fruit, right? So you got to find evidence that they are, talking or writing about fruit in this text. And for 13, here's that adverb modifying complicated. That's where I would focus in on. The author concludes, so we can probably guess it's the final or second last paragraph. It is extremely complicated to build a wildlife corridor. So I would focus on that word when I do find the section where that answer is. Okay, well, let's have a look and see if we can find those answers. 6 is true. Okay, so computer monitoring of animals is important in designing wildlife corridors. You can find the answer here. Use of tag and release programs. Now, tag and release, if you've ever watched Nat Geo, you know that they have the technology now where they take an animal, they put them to sleep, and then they give them a tag, and then they can track them using satellite. Okay, so when you see expressions like modeling this data can aid researchers to find flashpoints, again, this is monitoring, right? So monitoring, again, is important. Yeah, it may come into contact based on this research. The correct use of wildlife, so correct, right? Corridors can ensure that animals are free, and it keeps going, to move from one place to another without impacting the lives of local people. So we can get the feeling, that this is important for the mission of these wildlife corridors. So definitely that one's true. Now for question 7, it's also true. Extreme of dry weather is one factor encouraging migration. So for example, it may frequent one part of a forest, though most of the year, but move to another during periods of drought. So we can feel for this one that it totally must be, dry. Again, if you know what drought is, right, that's related to dry weather. It's completely a synonym for that. So that's something you need to focus on there. For question 8, it's false. The core habitat is made up of stepping stones. Let's see the answer there. So smaller areas of forest that function as a stepping stone between two larger protected areas. Two larger protected areas. And here it says the core habitat. Now core means the main point. You might have seen core, for exercise, maybe core strength. That's the main strength, okay? But when they say smaller areas of the forest, right, that function as stepping stone, that is completely the opposite of kind of core habitat. For question 9, it's not given. They talk about individual elephants move over a wider area than groups of elephants. Well, there's no evidence of that. They do talk here about a single elephant herd, right, may have a range of over 1,000 kilometers. But this is a single elephant herd. Those words go together. They only talk about a herd of elephants, which is, a group. And there's nowhere in this article where they compare whether an individual elephant travels further, than a group of elephants or a herd of elephants. And moving on to question 10, well, that's false. higher ground is useless as part of a wildlife corridor. Well, I mean, we got it right here. Wildlife corridors can be facilitated by exploiting natural boundaries, such as rocky or hilly areas, which would be unsuitable for pasture land. So yeah, they can be facilitated. It's not useless at all, right? They're used for kind of keeping the animals together. You know, yeah, this completely shows that they are useful, you know. So yeah, this sentence is completely false because, again, they are useful. And question 11, well, it's true. Wildlife corridors can partly be created by the environment itself. And if we have a look at the answer for this one, it's kind of over this paragraph. So regenerating the habitat may just entail allowing nature to take its course. This expression, allowing nature to take its course, means no interference from people. And, you know, right away we can feel that it's true from that. But we read a little bit more. By leaving this terrain and allowing rivers to flood it periodically. You know, leaving this terrain, it means not touching it, not bothering it. Again, we go on, new plant growth can be encouraged. So from all these, you know, highlighted sentences, we definitely know that 11 is true. Now for question 12, it's not given. Elephants are attracted to fields of fruit around natural parks. Well, we got to find fruit, but all we can find here is elephants are extremely adept, and that means good at, finding sources of food if farmers plant tasty crops on the land that touches. So yeah, tasty crops doesn't necessarily mean fruit. Crops could be wheat, barley, oats, rice. So the question specifically focuses in on fruit, but we don't have to focus in on just fruit. It could be, you know, any crop. So unfortunately, this one's a bit tricky, as I mentioned when we were looking at the questions. So for sure, this one is not given. And for question 13, it's false. The author concludes that it is extremely complicated to build a wildlife corridor. Well, let's have a look at that. Without needing too much hard work. Boom, right there we've got it. Without needing too much hard work. So it's kind of easy. On the part of local people, wildlife corridors can be put in place. So that is, you know, the opposite. Without needing too much work is not a synonym for extremely difficult. So right there, we've got it, false, and that's the end of these questions.